Good evening, good evening, and welcome to this wonderful production we have here on blackdoctor.org. I, of course, am Ellis Dean, the Director of Digital Programming at Black Doctor, and tonight is one of those shows where you go, there's a bunch of words in the human language. You can call it fate, you could call it serendipity, you could call it divine intervention, but every once in a while, somebody comes across your space and you say, hey, this person is going to be important for us. And that's what happened a couple of weeks ago when we were in New Orleans at the National Medical Association conference. We were doing doctor interviews. I don't know if you saw any of the program that we were doing there, but we were doing some live doctor interviews, and in walked the person that you're going to now know as the people's nephrologist, Dr. Vanessa Grubbs. And her story was so amazing, and she was so enticing and so passionate about tonight's topic that I was like, we got to have you on BDO. And thankfully, she was willing. I think I sold BDO enough, and I harassed her enough to get her to come on. And so we're going to be talking about your kidneys, right? And yes, we do a show called Kidney Talks every other Friday with the Roy and John Paul Kidney Transplant Center and MOTEP, and they do a great job. But they talk about the end of chronic kidney disease, which is more on the transplant side. We're going to be talking about things like what can you do to prevent chronic kidney disease? We're going to be talking about how Black folks need to pay attention to their kidneys a lot more, and some things that you can be doing at home to preserve and protect your kidneys so you don't ever have to get to dialysis or to that transplant stage. So we're going to do all of that over, not today, because we only got 30 minutes. But we're going to be doing that over the course of her programming here on blackdoctor.org. So before we do the great unveil of Dr. Grubbs, a couple of things I need for you to do for me. Number one, I need you to let us know where you're watching from. Drop that in the comment section. We'd like to know where people are watching us from all over the world. We had somebody from St. Lucia a little while ago, so please drop that in. I see Gerard and Sharon already checking in. Thank you so much. Number two, if you know somebody that needs this information, somebody that might be in that chronic kidney disease range, and we'll tell you a couple of conditions that are really associated with kidney disease that they might want to watch this too. So if you know somebody that needs this, or if you need it, look, tag a friend, share it on your page. That's what you need to do. And then number three, if you have any questions, we're going to try to get to as many questions as possible. But if you have any questions about tonight's topic, please drop those in the comments and we will get to them. If we don't get to them tonight, we'll definitely get to them in a future show, because this show is all about you. Because as I told you at the beginning, you're going to be meeting the people's nephrologist. And so with no further ado, I'd like to introduce to our video audience, Dr. Vanessa Grubbs. Welcome. How are you?
Hey, I'm good. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited.
We're happy to have you here. So excited about this. I see people are lining up. Even my mom's watching, so I got to be on my best.
Okay.
I got to be on my best behavior. So, hi, Mom. You like they do on the TV. So, we learn, and those for help our audience understand kind of a bit of your history, because it's an unusual path to nephrology. So share with our audience, what you shared with us in New Orleans about how you ended up becoming the people's nephrologist.
Yeah, this is one of those stories you can't really make up. So I never would have predicted myself being here, but I am from rural North Carolina, a little town called Spring Lake. It's outside of Fort Bragg and Fayetteville. And I'm the first doctor in my family, first university graduate in my family. And I ended up in California just to do primary care, and that's what I thought I would stay doing. But then I joined the faculty after my training in my primary care training in Oakland, and then I stayed on as faculty, and I met one of the board members, one of the board of trustees, because I was doing some program work. Turned out he was someone who had been on dialysis for about, when I met him, maybe 4 years. And then about a year later, things happened and we started dating. And it took me a second to, come to terms with getting involved with someone who has this very serious health condition. And, you can read all the details. Look, and I wrote a book about it. Here you go. No, seriously, the people, hundreds of interlaced fingers, a kidney doctor search for the perfect match. This came out, gosh, like 6 years ago. But anyway, so because of our relationship, I saw a much different view of what it's like for people living with a serious illness. I think it's pretty embarrassing. It says a lot about the medical system. And when I was training, it's all about getting the orders right, getting the numbers right, and that's important. But we didn't spend that much time thinking or talking about the patient living with those illnesses. And I went with him to his transplant evaluation. Supposedly he was getting close to the top of the list. And as I was sitting there listening to different people talk, I felt like, what is happening here? Like, I already knew there were race disparities in terms of who got a kidney and when. But to never have been on that side of things and see how people were talking, my thought was, I don't even know why y'all are surprised that there are disparities in who has access to kidney transplants. And that day is when I decided that I wanted to try to donate to my then boyfriend, Robert. And he was initially like, no, I don't want to do that because it can be heartbreaking if people say they want to donate and then they don't go through with it or something happens. But I was very serious about it. And of course, I was had to be very healthy in order to do that. And so it was, people thought I was crazy. It's like, because it was like less than a year before we started dating that we had surgery. And I gave him my left kidney. And then we got married about 4 months later, and that was 18 years ago. So he's had no dialysis since he left the hospital, and my health is good. His health is good. So we are really fortunate. And as I was thinking about, okay, this is what I'm doing for Robert to get him out of the system, that to me, it shown that it wasn't going to be able to treat him fairly. It hadn't at that point already. So I was thinking, what can I do for others? And at that point, I was already dabbling in research on a different topic, but I thought, okay, maybe I can do the research into why we have these disparities and come up with solutions for them. And this is one of those be careful who you talk to moments, because I talked to a nephrologist where I was, and I was honestly just looking for a project, but he said, you have an amazing story and you really should do a nephrology fellowship. It's just one tough clinical year and it'll change the way you think about nephrology, and it'll change the way people see your work, because so many times I see general medicine doctors write about nephrology and I feel like they just don't get it. They just don't understand what's going on. And so I said, okay, yeah, I'll do it. And it was a really, really tough clinical year. I thought about what am I doing a few times, but got through it. And he was right in that not only was it a really tough clinical year, but it was also really eye-opening. And in a lot of ways beyond just the transplant. And to me, most of it was really disturbing and sad, because I felt like we weren't being very thoughtful about how we took care of people who were approaching end-stage kidney disease. We weren't really dealing with the seriousness of it all. And we were, there's too much of a, how should I say, like a perverse incentive for dialysis. It's like big business now. And I think as much as some of us would like to feel like we're immune from some of these things, it's the reality of our capitalistic society. But and I felt like what it's made us do is just put people on dialysis if they have kidney failure, without really thinking about, is this the right decision for them? And don't get me wrong, for the vast majority of people, it is the best decision, but not if you're like 85, you have severe dementia, you have to be tied down to get through it. You know, that in those situations is, I think is cruel. So that's my whole backstory. And I was at UCSF, practicing University of California, San Francisco, and at San Francisco General Hospital, where I was on faculty for a decade. And then I decided to leave. There's a whole story there too. But
Yeah.
the big part of it is because I wanted to focus on my writing. Still working on the second book. And in the midst of all of that, this is where I get the People's Nephrologist name, because once I started writing, I wanted to get on social media so I could get the word out, build my platform, all that. And somebody already had the kidney doctor. So I said, okay, well, I guess I'm going to be the nephrologist. And I kind of made it work in my mind because, you know, folks are going to learn today what a nephrologist is, right? You know, most people don't know, but it's like, it's a kidney specialist, right? So, but then, let's see, this has been, I guess, almost 2 years now. Yeah, because we were still kind of in the lockdown of the pandemic. But a friend of mine, her mother had been on dialysis for some time, and she had some psychiatric issues, very stable. You know, she was very much plugged into care, but you know how we can be about anybody with mental illness in this country, you know, just so much negative stigma. But she was trying to get a transplant, and one of the centers refused to put her on the wait list for a deceased donor. And at the same time, I knew that my friend's sister wanted to give their mom one of her kidneys, but the mom said, no, absolutely not. She didn't want to do it. And I offered to sit down with them and just talk about the details of the situation to see if I could offer some help in some way, because unfortunately, the mom's nephrologist wasn't really trying to engage, and which is an unfortunately common thing that I hear from folks. But then I wanted to hear why she didn't want to get the kidney from her daughter. And she had all of these like wrong ideas about what the risks were for her daughter and for herself. And, you know, this is human nature. When we don't have information, our minds take us to the worst possible outcome. And that's what she did. And so but I was really amazed after just a few minutes of giving her some basic information about what kidneys do and, you know, what kind of function it is when you're on, when you need dialysis, and what the real risks for a donor are, and all of these things. She said, and I kid you not, it couldn't have been more than 15 minutes. And she said, okay, nobody ever explained it to me like that before. I'll do it. And I was stunned. My friend was stunned. She started crying. I started crying. But it was a really beautiful thing. And then she got on social media and started saying, this, you know, Dr. Vanessa, she's not just a nephrologist, she's the people's nephrologist, you know, because my mom had, you know, had all these doctors, and none of them engaged with her and explained things to her in a way that she could understand and trust. And so that really touched me, of course. And I felt like, you know, I should really lean into this. And that's why I started my my YouTube channel, Real Kidney Talk with the People's Nephrologist.
Right.
I know it's a mouthful, but that is what it is.
That's what it is. It's what it is.
Real Kidney Talk, you know, and you know, it's a labor of love. I do it on my little iPhone and edit the videos. And when I met you, Ellis, and you offered to help me make some videos, I was like, yes, I'm definitely on board with that. And really, mostly because I see it as a way to reach people where they are. Yeah. One of the things I never liked about how we do patient education in medicine is we expect people to come to us to get the information, and people are busy, folks are scared, they got a lot to do. And if they can avoid being anywhere around clinics and hospitals and doctors, they will. So for me, even though I know YouTube is not everybody is looking at YouTube, at least I saw it as a way to get more information to people that need it, and for whatever reason are not getting it from the clinic or, their doctor.
Well, YouTube is a search engine, right? At its bare minimum, so you can find anything you want on there. And I think I really do appreciate what you're doing. And it was a lot. That, like, the fact that you gave your husband a kidney is not lost on me, right? So I don't just you just kind of zoom right past that. I was like, oh, you got to let that breathe a little bit. So you gave your husband you gave your husband a kidney, and Joshua, I appreciate you joining us from YouTube. And he's telling a story about his wife, who is 48. She's on dialysis. And so, Joshua, we're going to try to get you some information that you could help, share with your wife. And you're the people's nephrologist, and I like to consider that. So I'm the people's host. So I want to ask the questions for the people that they always wanted to ask to doctors, but they feel like either they're going to get shamed or just whatever happened. So there's three terms in this realm. Mm-hmm. Kidney, renal, and nephrology. Mm-hmm. What is there a difference, or are all those terms interchangeable? And how to help us kind of get it lined up in our mind? Because I heard all three, and I just kind of had to learn that it's similar, because it's about renal failure, and then you hear about chronic kidney disease,
right?
And then all of these different. Help us understand what those terms mean.
Yeah. Oh, but before I say that, I want to tie up a couple loose ends. Sure. So my friend, her mom and sister had surgery within a few months, and they're doing great. So they had the transplant, so that was great. Yes. And yes. I've been producing I use that word loosely, my YouTube channel for a little over a year now. So it's pretty cool. But anyway, back to those three terms. I honestly think that sometimes in medicine, we make up words to help us keep our jobs. I mean, really, it's just unnecessary. So really, nephrology is just the study of kidneys, kidney health, and renal and kidney are interchangeable. And some of the, like I know the large kidney society, American Society of Nephrology, they are moving away, and some of the other organizations moving away from calling it end-stage renal disease to end-stage kidney disease. Okay. So there really is no difference.
Okay. So what is the function of the kidneys in our body? Like, what system is it part of? Because there's all these systems. You got the respiratory system, you got the all that reproductive. Yeah. What system are the kidneys part of? And what function do they serve as part of that system?
The kidneys are pretty amazing. And I have to say, I'm not somebody who planned to go into nephrology. And I find that most of my peers, nephrologists, are like the ultra geeks of medicine. I mean, we're all nerds, we're all geeks, and proudly. But nephrologists are on another level, and they get really, titillated by numbers and equations and things. But I will have to say that I definitely grew to love the kidney and feel like it's a beautiful, amazing organ. And it kind of touches all of those different areas. I mean, I think most people just know of the kidneys at best as making urine. And really, that's just one of the things that the kidneys do. Okay. So, and I find that a lot of people don't know, but almost all of us are born with two kidneys, and they sit kind of in our backs, partly under the rib cage. So besides making urine, they help regulate blood pressure. They help us make blood. They help, and not the urine is not just passing water, but it makes sure it keeps things in balance in our bodies, the electrolytes like potassium and sodium. They're involved, kidneys are involved with our bone health. It's a lot. Kidneys do a lot.
So they seem to be, and I said this passing in one time, they seem to be a little sensitive, because there's some conditions. There's some conditions.
You're not going to talk about my kidneys like this. No, I'm just playing. I'm just messing with you.
Yeah. So Jonathan saying, and filtration from the research in terms of the urine, and they do all of that. So the two conditions, and particularly why, and as we start talking to Black folks, because we're here on blackdoctor.org, and if you're just joining us, we're talking to Dr. Vanessa Grubbs, also known as the People's Nephrologist. You can find her on YouTube at Real Kidney Talk with the People's Nephrologist. So please go check out, follow her page. She's got some nice short form videos on there talking all things kidneys and getting you the information that you need. And then she's going to do a show regularly here on blackdoctor.org that we're going to talk about kidneys as well. So all right, so there's that filter, but there's two conditions that I hear all the time when it comes to that are closely associated with kidney disease, and when your kidneys starting to fail, these two conditions are probably present. That's hypertension and diabetes. And we know those two things, high blood pressure, the pressure as Black folks call it, the sugar, if you're talking about diabetes, whatever terminology you want to put on Black folks, hypertension and diabetes are closely associated with kidney disease. One, talk about why that is, and helping people understand why that is. And then also on the other side of that, why that impacts Black people in a very significant way.
Right. So in terms of the comment about kidneys are sensitive, I actually would say that the kidneys are they really suffer in silence. Like, and that's kind of one of the, I mean, it's like a double-edged sword. You want people to feel good, but at the same time, when most of us feel good, we don't seek care, or we don't act because we don't think anything is wrong. But people will not, for the vast majority, will not know that anything is wrong with their kidneys without getting blood and urine tests until it's like time for dialysis. Because really the symptoms sneak up on a person really slowly towards the later stages, and then not until the later stages. But yes, diabetes and high blood pressure account for 2/3 of the chronic kidney disease that we see in the U.S. And this is in part, someone brought up the filters, and I'm glad they brought that up. I sometimes try to simplify things when I'm not sure if folks are ready for the next level, but what the kidneys are doing, they make urine by filtering our blood. So when people talk about flushing out the kidneys and that kind of thing, I'm like, well, that's what the kidneys do. You can't flush something that's already flushing. But the kidneys are made of, each one has a million little filters. The technical name is called glomerulus for one, glomeruli for all of them, but each one normally has about a million of these. And I liken them to like a colander when you're like cleaning our veggies. So, the holes are big enough for dirt and water to pass through, but not the vegetables or whatever you're washing, right? And the kidneys are similar. The holes are big enough so that, the waste and all the extra water, all the extra electrolytes, all that stuff can pass through, but too small for protein to pass through. And different diseases like high blood pressure and particularly diabetes, they can cause damage to those filters so that more protein can get through there. And the more protein that gets out, the more damage it can do. So it's like protein is a sign of damage and can also cause damage. For high blood pressure, we don't see that much protein in the urine with high blood pressure, but it's more about the effect on the blood vessels. So in addition to being chock full of filters or glomeruli, the kidneys are also, it's just this massive web of blood vessels of various different sizes. It's truly amazing. So, I know I'm a little partial, but so high blood pressure can cause damage to all these little blood vessels. And if the kidneys don't have the filters intact and these blood vessels intact, they can't do their jobs normally.
Well, thank you for that. And so those filters get damaged.
Yeah, and the blood vessels. Yeah.
Yes. So that's why we did an article, and one of our more popular articles is about foamy urine, right?
Yeah.
You should be concerned about foamy urine. And reason why, from what I learned, is that shows that there's more protein in your urine. And so that should be a cause of concern about your kidney functioning. where there's too
And
much
at the
sugar.
same time, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but
No,
you triggered
please.
me over here. So, not that many conditions, not all conditions will give you that foamy urine. My husband, his condition gave him foamy urine, but a lot of people with diabetes, they won't have enough protein to see that.
Okay.
And high blood pressure folks, they definitely don't have enough protein. So if you're waiting for that to be a sign to get checked out, you've done
Might be too
yourself a
late.
major disservice, right?
Okay.
So, so in order to know, I would recommend anybody who has like a family history of diabetes and or high blood pressure, which is a lot of Black folks,
Mm-hmm.
you're automatically at risk. You're at risk for having kidney disease. So you definitely need to get your a urine test and a blood test every year. And if you're somebody who already has diabetes or chronic kidney disease, then I would say do those tests at least twice a year, or if not every quarter, depending on how well controlled your numbers are.
So that leads us to a question coming from one of our viewers. What lab should we
Oh
monitor
yeah.
for kidney disease?
Yeah, the common one that we use is the blood test is creatinine. It's from
Mhm.
a basic panel. And the urine test is for a specific kind of protein called albumin. And it's those two tests that I think are important to order together. And I know that a lot of our primary care, a lot of my primary care colleagues, they don't really know or understand how important it is to get the urine test as well. So for me, this is like empowering folks. You need to ask for these tests. Now, a lot of things do affect the creatinine blood test. And up until a couple years ago, the experts said it was race. And so this is where I think it's so important for particularly Black folks to be informed, because these it only said that Black people had different kidney function than everybody else. So the equation
Mm.
to estimate how well our glomerular filtering, glomerular filtration rate, see, it's all a
Mhm.
mouthful, GFR. Um, they said if you're Black, then that means a different number, and it's a mess. I've always thought, like, what kind of racist nonsense is this? And when you dig into the research, there's really no. I mean, it's a mess. And thankfully, I have been talking and writing about it since 2007 when it was first presented to me when I was doing my nephrology fellowship, that specialty training. And then a couple years ago, medical students who are being taught this now, it didn't exist back in my day when I was
Mhm.
in medical school, but now it's being taught, and they're like, wait a minute, wait, we are here to learn how to be good doctors, and you're teaching us how to be racist. And they created this whole national conversation. They forced a conversation, and the folks who made those equations ended up having to go back to the table and creating an equation that didn't have race in it.
Wow.
But because other things can affect creatinine that they just attributed to Black people. I'm just going to say one. How crazy does this sound? Black people on average have higher muscle mass than everybody else. That was their justification.
Mm.
And in truth, muscle mass can affect the creatinine, because creatinine is a breakdown product from our muscles.
Right.
And the kidneys filter it out about the same amount every day. So that's what makes it a good test for kidney function. But other things can affect it too, like certain medications. If you're a vegan, or if you're, at the barbecue every day, or if you've had a part amputated, all of these different things can affect that creatinine. And so for people whose number might be a little high, I tend not to just assume that they have a kidney problem. I will order a cystatin C, and that is a more specialized test that
Mhm.
probably not that many primary care folks know about, but it's a specialized test that is not affected by muscle mass and all those other things that I mentioned. And but it's funny, I haven't even ordered that test for myself, even though my own creatinine is a tiny bit elevated. And I gave a kidney away, so I don't expect to have perfect kidney function, but my most recent creatinine has been about I think it's 1.12, something like that. And so the equation says my GFR is 55, which technically puts me in stage 3. But what I want to do is check that cystatin C to really get a better estimation. And it is all just an estimation of what my actual kidney function is. And then there's an equation that has both numbers in it, creatinine and cystatin C. And of course, for myself, every year, since I'm down to 1 kidney, I do get my kidney function checked, including the urine, every year.
Oh, in summary, guys, because there's a lot. So when you go for your annual checkup, and I'm going to assume that everybody that's watching this program is getting checked up on an annual basis, right? So I'm gonna see you in a positive light. So when you go for your annual checkup, if you have a family history of kidney disease, if you have high blood pressure, or you're flirting with high blood pressure, if you've got a family history of high blood pressure or diabetes, right? You should know what your blood sugar is, or your A1C. You should know what that is, particularly if you're diabetic. These are 2 tests that you need to be getting done. You need to be getting that blood test, creatinine. You need to know what that, and that needs to be below which number, Dr. Grubbs?
Oh, there's a range for it. And it honestly does depend on how big of a person is, how muscular you are, how, if your gender, your age, because, as we grow older, our muscles waste away a little bit, and males tend to have more muscle mass than females. And I know I'm talking a lot about muscle mass, but still all those other things apply. So the range goes anywhere from, in most labs, from, I want to say like 0.6 to 1. And you'll see it. And when people are pregnant, that number can go down to the 0.6 end. Our elders, particularly on the more frail side, that number should be on the lower end of that range, because they don't have that much muscle mass. So if you see one of our frail elders with a creatinine that's 1.5, that's a big deal. That person has already lost a lot of kidney function. So a creatinine of 1 does not mean the same in everybody. It depends on a lot of factors.
Gotcha. And then albumin in your urine, right? So those are the 2 tests that you can ask for your doctor to check out. And if they're not comfortable in terms of interpreting the results, then you might have to seek out a nephrologist to get some understanding on those. I will say I had it done because and before we came on, I was telling Dr. Grubbs that I had my labs pulled, and I was getting my results read to me, and my creatinine level was elevated. It was over 1. I think I was at 1.3, something like that. And she just kind of nonchalantly said, "Oh yeah, and I looked at it, but I knew, because I'm looking at the little graph, the chart, and it was over in the, and she just said, "Oh yeah, you're probably, stage 2, stage 3. Oh, hey, wait, oh," because my father is on dialysis and has been on for several years. So I'm very sensitive about renal/kidneys disease. And so when the red flag went up, and I said, "Oh, we need to talk about that." And I tell that story as a cautionary tale. That's how you advocate for yourself. Because if I didn't ask the question, if I said, "Hey, wait a minute," and then they ran some more tests, and they realized that the elevated creatinine was due to, because you can't see from this shirt, but I'm kind of muscular guy, and I do exercise on a regular basis, and it was due. All my other levels were normal except for that creatinine, and I said, "Okay, well, I don't need to work out that much to damage my kidney." So I toned down on the exercise. I still get my minutes in, but definitely have to watch that and advocate for yourself. But you have to know what the numbers are. And so if you don't know what they are, so if you don't know what you got an elevated PSA, if you're prostate sensitive, if you don't know what that elevated is, or what your previous number was to where your number is now, because there's this thing, you got to just know. You got to know. And that's why you got to go on an annual basis.
You got to pay attention. Yeah.
Last year to this year. So there's so much more we want to go through. There's some great questions. All right, what should you do to prevent kidney disease? I did answer the question, Corliss. I did put it on screen. I'll put it on screen again for Dr. Grubbs' YouTube page. And valuable information. Thank you, Felisa. What should you do? So, Corliss, you just gave us a topic for the next program. What should I do to prevent kidney disease? And so there's a variety of things to do. The short answer is eat a more plant-forward diet and drink water. Those two things will help your kidneys rebound and repair, and they can, if you're in that stage 3 and lower, you could come down. And Docs, I know you want to say something. Go ahead, jump in there. Correct, but that's why you're here.
Well, I mean, it all really depends. It depends on what is going on for the individual person. If you are somebody who has a lot of protein in your urine, like over like 1,000 or 2,000, which is, sometimes just having diabetes can do that, but a lot of the more rare conditions do that, then yes, it makes sense to go to more of a plant-based diet, because it's the animal protein that can be harmful. But, and of course, it's always great to drink plenty of water, particularly for folks who have kidney stones, because you want to be producing some like 2-3 liters of urine every day. So you got to drink that much to pee that much. And people tend to want like some pill that they can take that fits the kidneys, but I try to help folks understand that's not how it works. Other things are hurting the kidneys, like blood sugar, blood pressure are hurting the kidneys. So you got to eat a diet and take medicine to take care of those things. So it's all indirect. Like the kidneys will be happy if, all these other diseases would just get off them, right?
Right.
So that's how I try to help folks understand.
Yeah, so get your blood pressure and your blood sugar under control, and that will do a lot for your kidneys.
Yeah.
Drinking water. I do like the plant-forward diet for other reasons, because that'll also lower your blood sugar. That will also help lower your blood pressure and blood sugar. I'm not completely wrong here, Doc. I'm just
No, you're fine. But I do. People need to understand that once you've lost some kidney function due to a chronic illness, like something that's been around for years, there's no getting it back. I mean, that's like the sad reality of it. What you can hope to do is protect what you have and prevent it from getting worse as fast as it would if you did nothing. But yeah, when it's chronic kidney disease, that means irreversible damage, and it's only acute processes like maybe you were really sick and your blood pressure bottomed out, and your kidneys weren't happy with that. But if that's corrected quickly, like if there's an infection, if that's treated, or if you get back fluid or whatever, then the kidneys will bounce back. But those are few and far between. Most of it is chronic, ain't going nowhere, unfortunately, kidney disease.
Gotcha. So we're going to go deeper into how can you prevent kidney disease. We're going to go, we haven't even talked about genetic APO1. We haven't talked about, we haven't even touched that yet. So there's a lot that we could talk about, and we could talk about each stage. If we want to go through each stage and what is the characteristics, what you should be looking for at each stage, and talk about dialysis versus and how that transplant process should go, and how to get an advocate for yourself, because Black folks are there's things, and we've had on our other kidney programs, transplant surgeons say, don't let them turn you away just because you have this, right? They want you to be as healthy as possible, but should not be something that if you're trying to donate a kidney, someone that should not move you off from the donor list, because then you could be really helping save somebody's life, and prolong your life. So really, there's a lot of things we're going to unpack here, but that's why we had to have the people's nephrologist. She's corrected some things. We've got some things straightened out, folks. That's why she's here. That's why when I met her in New Orleans, I was like, you got to come to BDO and talk to our folks, because they are excited that you're here. Thank you so much. So I'm going to put this on screen again. So 30 minutes, we're already at 40 minutes. I told you, they were going to let me.
I know I need to be less long-winded with my background story.
No. We had to learn more about you. So that I was very fine with going over on this show. Real Talk with the People's Nephrologist. That's where you need to go to.
Real Kidney Talk.
Real Kidney Talk, sorry. Real Kidney Talk with the People's Nephrologist. You should be like renal kidney talk. We just put all three of them in there.
No. That's what we're not doing.
So Real Kidney Talk with the People's Nephrologist. Go check out our YouTube channel. She's written books. She is dedicated to helping Black people be healthier and have the healthier kidneys. And so that's why we're here, because that's what we're dedicated to, educating you about your kidney health, because they're a special organ and we have to treat them.
So special. Yes.
Don't your adrenal glands sit on the top of your kidneys?
Yeah, like cute little caps.
Okay, all right.
And that's a lot of hormone stuff there too. Yeah, it's all amazing stuff.
There's a lot going on. So we're going to learn, and this is going to be a journey. As you can see, we're going to keep the energy level up, and it's going to be a lot of fun. It's not heady. This is not a lecture. You're not back in school. This is you. This is us helping you, give you the tools that you can go out and protect and live a happier, healthier life. And that's why we're here. So thanks again. Thank you for the questions. You have already got the next show. We already got what the topic of the next show.
Thank you so much again for allowing me to have this kind of reach to your audience. I do really appreciate it. And really at the end of the day, I just want people to have the right information, have good information so that they can make the best decisions for themselves. So
absolutely.
Thanks.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you for agreeing to be here. Thanks to everybody that was in the comment section. Folks on YouTube, Joshua and Amy. We appreciate you, Amy, for jumping in. Corliss, Felicia, Brian, everybody that was here. My mom was she even had a commented there. So thank you all for joining us, and we'll see y'all next time. Be on the lookout for the next show, Real Talk with the People's Nephrologist.
Okay.